How much do you need to retire? The 4% rule explained. How much money do you really need to retire? It's one of the biggest financial questions you'll ever face, and the answer might be simpler than you think. In this video, we're breaking down the 4% rule, a popular retirement guideline, and showing you how to apply it to your life. No complex math, no financial jargon, just clear, useful advice that can help you figure out your retirement number. Welcome to Money Mastered Mindset, where we break down smart money moves made simple. Let's get into it. The 4% rule is a simple concept. It's a way to estimate how much money you can safely withdraw from your retirement savings each year without running out of money. The idea comes from a famous study that looked at nearly a century of market data. Researchers wanted to know how much someone could spend each year in retirement and still make their money last at least 30 years. What they found was this. If you withdraw around 4% of your total savings in the first year of retirement, and then slightly increase that amount each year for inflation, your money should last for decades, even during market downturns. It's not perfect, but it's a widely respected rule of thumb that gives you a solid starting point. Now, how does this help you? Well, instead of trying to guess how much you need to save, you can flip the question around. Start with how much money you'd like to spend each year in retirement. Then you can estimate the total amount you'd need saved to support that lifestyle. For example, let's say you think you could live comfortably on a modest annual income. The 4% rule tells you how big your savings would need to be to generate that income, without eating through your money too quickly. It helps take a big, overwhelming question, like, what's my retirement number? And turns it into something clear and actionable. Keep in mind, this rule applies to your invested savings, not your total net worth. That means it includes things like your retirement accounts, such as a 401k or IRA, or any brokerage account you've invested in. It could also include real estate investments, if they generate rental income. But it doesn't include the value of your home, unless you plan to sell it or rent it. It doesn't include your car, your furniture, or anything you don't intend to use for income. So when you're thinking about your retirement portfolio, think liquid. Think income generating. That's the money this rule is referring to. One of the reasons the 4% rule has stood the test of time is because it takes inflation into account. You're not just withdrawing the same amount every year. You're slightly increasing your withdrawals to match rising prices. That's important because things like food, housing, travel, and healthcare all tend to get more expensive over time. A retirement plan that doesn't account for inflation is likely to fall short. This rule helps you keep up, without burning through your savings too quickly. So where did this rule come from? It was developed in the 1990s based on research that looked at how different withdrawal strategies performed over time, especially through tough market periods like recessions and crashes. What they found was that a 4% initial withdrawal rate, followed by small yearly increases, gave retirees a very strong chance of making their money last at least 30 years, even during periods of poor stock market performance. That's why so many financial planners and early retirees use it as a starting point. But even a great rule of thumb has its limits. For example, the 4% rule assumes you'll be retired for around 30 years. If you retire early, say in your 40s, your retirement could last 40 or even 50 years. In that case, you might want to use a more conservative withdrawal rate, like 3.5% or even 3%. It also assumes you'll keep your money invested in a balanced portfolio, typically a mix of stocks and bonds, and that you'll stay the course during good times and bad. It doesn't account for major changes in your lifestyle, like moving to a more expensive area, traveling full-time, or needing long-term care. And it doesn't predict the future. If stock and bond returns are much lower in the coming decades than they've been in the past, the 4% rule might be a little too optimistic. That said, it's still one of the best tools we have for ballparking your retirement plan, especially if you use it with some flexibility. So what happens if the market drops just after you retire? That's something people worry about a lot, and for good reason. Taking big withdrawals from your portfolio during a down market can be risky. But here's the good news. The original research that created the 4% rule included many major market crashes. Even with those downturns, the 4% strategy still held up most of the time. Still, smart retirees stay flexible. In tough years, they might reduce their spending, skip large purchases, or delay travel. When the market recovers, they can increase their withdrawals again. Flexibility is a key part of any good retirement strategy. Think of the 4% rule as a guideline, not a rigid plan. Believe it or not, many people are using this rule not just for traditional retirement, but for early retirement. That's especially true in the FIRE movement, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. People in this movement save aggressively, cut expenses, and invest wisely, all with the goal of reaching a point where work becomes optional. They use the 4% rule to figure out when they can step away from their job and live off their investments. And here's the cool part. If you can live on less, you don't need as much saved. The rule adjusts with your lifestyle. Someone with modest spending habits can reach financial independence faster than someone with expensive tastes. It's not about hitting a universal number. It's about finding your number, the one that matches your lifestyle and your goals. So, how do you actually get there? Here are a few simple steps. First, estimate how much you'd like to spend each year in retirement. Make it realistic. Think about housing, food, travel, healthcare, and the kind of lifestyle you want. Then, figure out how much you'll need to have saved in order to safely withdraw that amount each year. That's your rough target, your freedom number. Next, invest regularly. The earlier you start, the more compound growth works in your favor. Even small contributions can grow into large sums over time. Use tax-advantaged accounts whenever possible. Things like 401ks, IRAs, or HSAs. These accounts give your money a chance to grow faster by reducing taxes. And most importantly, stay consistent. You don't have to get everything perfect. Just keep moving forward. Even if retirement feels far away, the choices you make today will shape your future. Let's take a quick example. Imagine someone in their mid-30s who wants to retire by 55. They live fairly simply and don't need a luxury lifestyle. Over the years, they invest regularly, keep expenses low, and stick to a long-term plan. By using the 4% rule as a guide, they reach their retirement target and walk away from their job knowing their money is working for them. That's the power of intentional planning. And it starts with one question. How much do I want to live on each year? Once you have that number, the 4% rule helps you work backward. You don't have to be a math expert. You don't need to pick the perfect stock. You just need a plan, a goal, and the discipline to stick with it. So, what's the takeaway? Retirement isn't just about age, it's about freedom. It's about having enough saved to cover your needs, and then some, for the rest of your life. The 4% rule doesn't tell you what to do. It gives you a framework to make smart decisions. Use it to spark a conversation with your partner. Use it to guide your savings goals. Use it to build a future where work is optional and your time is your own. If you found this helpful, take a minute to think about your future lifestyle. What would it take for you to live comfortably without working? You don't have to know the exact number today. But starting the process is half the battle. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, subscribe for more simple financial tips, and drop a comment with your biggest retirement question. Your future self will thank you.